everybody. It's Chris B. or Chris Bezanoy again with CSB Security Inc. Today I'm going to talk about evidence gathering for Health Canada, or attestations to get your cultivation license. It's a pretty big thing in the industry. It's evolved over time, and I think it's really important that you watch this video to the very end. Before we go any further, there's a little bit of disclaimers. First of all, when I do my attestations, I've done 50 plus so far. I do them a different way than some other people. It's based on my experience, my dealings with Health Canada, seeing a whole bunch of questions back from Health Canada and all the licenses and files that I've worked on. It's meeting people in the industry, talking with them. It's talking with integrators. It's a whole bunch of things, but it is essentially my opinion and my way of doing things. You may have a consultant that does things differently. That's okay. We just happen to do it a certain way, and so far we've been very successful. The second thing is, I didn't coin the term attestations. It is something that has come up in the industry multiple times. It is actually coined by what I consider a very good friend and colleague of mine whom I used to work with. He came up with that term, and it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to call them attestations, but essentially what they are is evidence gathering packages. So let's dive into it. Give you a little bit of a history of what the attestation package looks like before and what it looks like now. So back in the MMPR days, before the ACMPR, and even a little bit during the ACMPR, you had to prove to Health Canada you were ready for a license. And what Health Canada would do is they would send out inspectors, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes just 1 inspector, and they would visit your site. And these site visits were called pre-license inspections, or PLIs. Sometimes they were 2 days, sometimes they were 3, sometimes they were only half a day, depending on where you were. I can tell you for sure in BC, when I was part of the PLIs, sometimes it was 3 days and 2 inspectors. It was intense. Inspectors used to go through SOPs, security operating procedures, standard operating procedures. They used to go through ample organics. They used to go through video surveillance, shake some fences, set off some alarms, see some logs, ask some questions. It was pretty intense. I've been a part of some in Alberta and Ontario that were only a day, and it was 1 inspector. It was intense, but it wasn't as intense as BC. I've been in some in Quebec where they were okay. They asked certain questions. They were concerned with certain things where they weren't concerned with others. Again, it varies by inspector or reviewer across the nation. But the point is, Health Canada had to send people out, and they had to dedicate resources for people to go out and see these sites and then come back to their office and send what we call back then was more of an RMI. It's kind of called that now, request for more information. It was a little bit less formal than it is now. It was basically a reviewer or reviewers saying, I didn't quite understand a bunch of things about your site, so here's a letter and an email asking a bunch of clarification questions. It's kind of the same concept that happens now, except now we have a term for them. It's called RMIs. What ended up happening, though, was that Health Canada was spending a lot of time, and their inspectors were doing a lot of time outside of the office. They were getting bogged down with just the sheer number of applicants that were ready for a license, and they started having to schedule PLIs sometimes a month in advance. So a client would have a site ready, they'd build it out, they'd spend their millions of dollars, and they'd sit around and wait for a month until Health Canada says, oh, by the way, we can come see you a month from now. Frustrating, yes, but that's the way it had to be. So what ended up happening is Health Canada said, well, you know what? Instead of us coming out to the sites, how about we task the applicant with proving to us that they are ready for a license? In other words, they threw it back to the clients. Not a bad way of doing things. Now, applicants and our clients had to prove to Health Canada and do their own attestations, or, so to speak, their own PLIs. That sounded fantastic at the time. A lot of our applicants said, well, we are going to hand in XYZ ABC. And we kind of went, you might want to do that. We think you should do ABC 1, 2, 3. And it was an evolving process to what it is now. Again, as I mentioned before, different people do different things. Some people do video exports of 180 cameras with both lights on and lights off, which gives Health Canada upwards of 360 video clips for them to view, all a minute each. Please don't do that. I can tell you right now that's not going to go over well. Now you fast forward to the ACMPR and having to do your own attestations, it became evident that you needed to really attest to the fact that your site was ready. You needed to give Health Canada an idea of what's happening in your site without Health Canada showing up. So what they did was they said, okay, you need to give us pictures or videos of devices, of aspects of your site, of how you're GPP compliant, how you're security compliant. You need to prove to us. And so what we started doing was we started doing a whole ton of pictures. We would do floor plans. We would take pictures of devices. We would do a little bit of video export. we would definitely send Health Canada as much information as possible. The challenge with that is that Health Canada came back and said, well, in this picture, we can't really see what we're looking for. You don't show the ceiling enough. We don't see the cracks along the walls. We don't see if you've got an epoxy-coated floor. It looks like that video camera is the exact same picture you sent us for 50 other cameras inside your facility. It looks like you're giving us pictures of just one room and pretending that the other 27 rooms are exactly the same. So then we started thinking, this is better off being a video attestation. It's better off that we send out a video crew, we send out somebody to host the video, and we walk Health Canada through all the Subdivision C spaces, all the cannabis present areas, all the office spaces, exterior, you name it. We walk Health Canada through the compliance of your site by explaining it to them, by hosting videos, and having the video crew take pictures, take snapshots, move the cameras up and down to show Health Canada what they want to see. It is now known as video attestations. They're not going to go away. Health Canada likes them. It is a way of having their resources dedicated inside the office to reviewing evidence packages sent by USB versus having these inspectors having to leave, go on airplanes, sit in hotel rooms, all that kind of fun stuff. So it did make the licensing process faster, but it also made it more confusing. What I mean by that is, Health Canada comes on site, they take a look around, you can explain stuff to them. I've been in part of PLIs where Health Canada would turn to me and say, you got 2 motion detectors in this room. I don't understand. And you'd say, oh, well, that's because there's not enough throw distance for this motion detector, therefore we use 2. And they'd say, oh, okay, I get it. Well, now you're basically sending them a video or pictures of those motion detectors, and if you don't talk about why there are 2 in the room, they may ask you a question and say, what is the other detector for? I don't get it. Or you may show them something that you don't want them to see. You may take a picture of what you think is an awesome camera, but you didn't realize at the top of that frame there was a crack that did not have a seal. Health Canada will look at the camera and go, that's fantastic, and glance up in your picture and go, whoa, you don't have fully sealed rooms. That's a big no-no. Same thing happens with video attestations. That's why we always say your facility has to be fully ready and fully compliant. Pretend as if we are Health Canada when we come on site. Would you expect to see a license by the end of the day if one of us came out to inspect your site? And the answer is you should expect it, because that's what we have to show Health Canada. We do attestations a bit differently than all people, like I've mentioned before. We bring a video crew, or we use a video crew that you already have. I'm the one that usually does the hosting, so Health Canada's seen my face numerous times, I'd say over 50 now. But I just host. Walk Health Canada through the compliance, talk to them about certain things, bring certain things to light. It's not uncommon for me to say, hey, Health Canada, the growing tables have not arrived yet. They are being shipped, but they will be installed. They will be stainless steel, and here's the specifications for them. Sometimes Health Canada says, that's fantastic. Or sometimes they say, take a picture when they're built. Okay, you kind of roll the dice. That's an example of how you can get a license without tables. You can't get a license without cameras inside of those cultivation rooms, inside of those Subdivision C spaces. Now, I do talk about the 56 exemption in another video. It does deal with cameras inside of cultivation rooms. The reason why I say if there are cameras inside your cultivation rooms, you may be doing so for compliance to get identification quality images of people coming and going that space. So, to clarify, you don't need cameras inside your cultivation rooms. I talk about that in the 56 exemption. It's been ported over to the Cannabis Act. However, it depends on what you're tasking those cameras with inside the room and whether or not you're compliant. That being said, here's another little tidbit for you. You have to attest to Health Canada that you're ready to go. A lot of questions that I get from integrators and from clients, especially when I'm on site or if I'm the one handling the attestation package, they ask the question and say, well, do we have to attest to the cameras inside of the cultivation rooms, even though we don't need them anymore? And the answer is no, you don't. Those are what we call business decision cameras. You don't need to show Health Canada the video footages for those cameras. You don't need to attest to them. You don't have to send them specifications. You don't have to tell them the awesomeness of those cameras. Why? It's not meant for compliance anymore. Do yourself a favor. This is a freebie for you. If you do an attestation on your own and you don't hire somebody like us or another consultant that knows what they're doing, and you give Health Canada a whole bunch of images of cameras inside the cultivation spaces, and some of those cameras may not be that good, Health Canada won't know whether or not they're meant for compliance or meant for a business decision. And they're going to judge you on that. They're going to come back and they'll say, it appears that there's not ideal video footage at night or when it's dark inside of those rooms. as there's no IR illumination or the video footage is not good enough. Therefore, please redo and send us new video when you've solved the issue. And you're going to go back and say, well, sorry, those cameras are business decision. Health Canada is going to say, why did you show us this then? Why didn't you tell us that? Or why are you even showing it? Because now I have to base my review on what you show me. Nonetheless, attestations are not going away. It's not just for your cultivation license either. It's if you want to expand. I do talk about a phase 1 footprint in another video and the advantages and disadvantages of that approach. But it doesn't change the fact that you still have to prove to Health Canada no matter what you do. If you get a cultivation license for 4 rooms and you want to expand it to 5, 6, 7, and 8 rooms and you haven't showed them those rooms in a video or given them pictures, you have to attest to it. You have to say, hey, Health Canada, thank you for the cultivation license. Please note, I would like to fire up these 5 cultivation rooms. And they'll say, great. Send us your evidence package. Send us your videos. Send us your pictures. Show us how you're compliant in those rooms. Keep in mind, Health Canada cannot grant a license for a room unless they see it. And rightfully so. I would also say that attestations are a bit frustrating for people because you will send an awesome attestation package to Health Canada. Health Canada will come back with 27 questions, then 8 questions, then 16, and pretty soon you're in limbo for 4 months. It doesn't mean that you won't get one. It just means that maybe they saw something they didn't like. Maybe they're clarifying things. Maybe they had a changeover of staff. Maybe a reviewer is brand new. Maybe a reviewer is a seasoned veteran and knows, are you really going to get IR illumination 150 feet from your walls to your fence line? I don't think so. And I tend to agree. I don't think so either. Anyways, the point being, attestations are not going away. You need them. You need to get ready for them. You can do them on your own. You can send it to a consultant for them to review. You need to send it by USB. There are things you need to watch out for. There are pitfalls. There are things that will make Health Canada reject your attestation. There are things you don't want to show them and things that you do, things you don't want to say, things you do want to say. They are extremely important. They are not going away. And you need to hire somebody that knows exactly what to say to Health Canada. And of course, answer the questions that come back. Thanks for watching. I do a lot of these videos. Remember to follow us. Ask your questions, send me emails, give me a call. I will certainly post the ones that I think that are important. Obviously, ones that are kind of proprietary, maybe a little sensitive information, I won't do out of respect for the clients that I have and the NDAs that I've signed. Nonetheless, this is all information that is usable, and I hope it finds you well. We'll see you in the next video.